All right, we are live. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Q3 2023 Cofense Phishing Intelligence Review Briefing, where we will walk through the key phishing threats, the tactics, the trends observed during the previous quarter, and give you the opportunity to ask some questions about the latest findings and observations. So before we hop into it, a couple housekeeping topics. After we walk through the presentation today, and including the key phishing threats, the tactics, trends observed during this quarter, we'll then open the floor to audience questions. And so, as I just mentioned, we'll have some open Q&A time at the end of the presentation. But I encourage you to if you have any questions, to drop it into the Q&A window on your console, which will be on the should be on the right-hand side there. So this we'll get to those questions at the end, so we'll make sure that they are all answered. This webcast is being recorded, and everyone here today will receive a link to the recorded session, just in case you miss anything or wanted to reference anything that we are talking about today. So on the right-hand side of the console, you'll also find links to some helpful email security-related sources as well. These are some of the some curated content that our analyst team has put together. And so if you have any questions on that, we can ask them here during this session, or as I just mentioned, we can reference them later and do some follow-up after the webinar today. So for introductions, my name is Jared Slotich. I am the manager of intelligence operations, and I'm just here for the introduction and to cover some of the higher level strategic topics, as well as answer anything during the Q&A. For the majority of the content here today, we have Max Gannon, who is our Senior Cyber Threat Intelligence Analyst here at Cofense. He's been with us for a very long time and is by far and away one of the most experienced cybersecurity and threat intelligence subject matter experts that we have here on the team. So welcome, Max. Appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule here to lend us some of your expertise. So really quick, before we dive into the Q3 data, I just want to give a pretty high-level overview of Cofense Intelligence. We get this question quite a bit on what exactly is the distinction of intelligence, its functions, and how it fits into the entire cybersecurity lifecycle. So one of the most important things I could say is that Cofense Intelligence is a human-vetted email threat intelligence service that provides accurate, timely alerts and in-depth analysis to help strengthen an enterprise's ability to quickly identify and respond to attacks in progress. So that's a lot of detail to deconstruct there, but as we go through and you see the content of what we're publishing and some of the metrics and the trends that we publish through our analytic products, it'll make more sense. But understanding that it is human-vetted, that it is human-led analysis, that it is timely, and that it is accurate. These are key in understanding the important value that intelligence provides. It's the contextual information generated by real human analysis that enables our customers to best respond to the ever-evolving threat landscape. So how is Cofense Intelligence different? Why the why of Cofense Intelligence? What makes us special? We are a true intelligence service. So as I was just alluding to, what this means is that we aren't just aggregating data feeds and slapping a label on it. We use a lot of powerful infrastructure, and we're also leveraging complex automations to assist in processing the vast amounts of data that we need to. But all intelligence reporting is ultimately reviewed and published by a human. So yes, there's a lot of data, so we have to use the technical capabilities that we have. But what really distinguishes Cofense Intelligence is that we have human-led and published analyses. This is very crucial in understanding what the real value is here with an intelligence, a true intelligence service. So the expert insights that our analysts provide are what creates the context answering the so what questions within the data. This essentially serves as a force multiplier for your operations and ensures that when threats do appear, our information is accurate, it's actionable, and it can be used to eliminate the threats before they reach your end users' inboxes. So with all of that covered, just would like to, as kind of a, an advertisement here, but also just kind of to speak to the quality of our work. You'll see at the bottom there, our false positive rate has an accuracy of 99.999%. It's not just a marketing thing we throw in there. We're actually very proud of the quality of our work. Spend a lot of our time trying to make sure that things are accurate, that what we are publishing is of the highest quality and value to our customers. And because of that, we've been able to achieve such a low false positive rate. So you'll see as we get in further into the data here, but I will hand over the microphone to Max. So Max, I'll cue up your slide and go ahead and take it away.
All right, so to start with, we're going to be talking about some of the overall phishing threat landscape in Q3 of this year. We're going to cover both some overall trends and some more specific trends around malware and delivery mechanisms. Then we're going to take a look at some of the strategic reporting we did in Q3. Next, we're going to take a look at some of the credential phishing trends that we investigated. And lastly, we're going to give a brief outlook for Q4. So I've got some of the key points here. The first one, credential phishing indicators of compromise, aka IOCs, increased by nearly 45% in Q3 compared to Q2, and increased 85% from Q3 2022. It's difficult to pin down a specific reason for this, but one of the reasons is likely the increased usage of Google AMP, where each embedded URL is technically two, the first being the Google AMP URL and the second being the actual URL that victims are redirected to. QR codes also often make use of multiple URLs, with the URL embedded in the QR code often being a shortened URL, which leads to the actual credential phishing campaign, which leads to more IOCs than a typical credential phishing campaign with a single embedded URL. QR codes embedded in images in phishing emails and in PDFs attached to phishing emails rose. As we talked about in our strategic analysis, which we'll be covering a bit later, security infrastructure faces serious difficulties when it comes to checking embedded content compared to that of normal embedding of plain text URLs, which makes QR codes an increasingly popular alternative. Moreover, QR codes force victims to use their phones, which are not typically protected by the company's security infrastructure, allowing threat actors to get away with activity that likely would have been alerted on if it had occurred in the enterprise environment. PDFs remain the most popular phishing email attachment for threat actors, making up nearly 50% of the malicious file extensions seen in email campaigns this quarter. We predicted this last quarter, with the growth of PDFs using QR codes likely being one of the causes for this and likely to continue. Emotet and Quackbot remained inactive throughout Q3, with Quackbot staying silent since Q2 2023 and Emotet since Q1 2023. This is responsible for a sudden drop in the number of loader and banker malware types this quarter, which we'll talk about later. An increase in malware used for reconnaissance and utilities used by malware to extract information occurred this quarter. Popular examples of the utilities include the password browser dump utility and the email password dump utility. This made malicious utilities the 5th most popular malware type of the quarter, putting it before loaders, which is very unusual. First, we're going to cover what is actually reaching the inboxes of end users. We cover a large number of threats bypassing SEGs or secure email gateways each quarter. This includes both malware and credential phishing. As you can see in the image on the left, we have the SEGs bypass, and on the right, we have some recent threats observed in those environments. Here we highlight some of the malware that bypasses SEGs and really shouldn't, given how the emails delivering malware are often more obviously bad than those delivering credential phishing. This listing also highlights how our training compares to SEG performance, because the majority of the emails seen here come from emails that customers reported. Customers in the hospitality sector in particular have gotten very good at spotting emails that deliver Vidar Stealer and Steal C, with their daily reporting providing us with SEG bypass examples. We publish this information on our SegMist page on our website, along with credential phishing emails that bypass SEGs. Some of the malware that we list here, such as Agent Tesla and Vidar Stealer, were seen in large volumes, and Vidar Stealer was even featured in a strategic analysis, which we're going to cover later. Here we have some of the most commonly seen malware types of Q3 2023. Keyloggers, information stealers, and remote access Trojans are self-explanatory. The banker malware type covers specifically malware that targets banking credentials and typically has web injects, or other tools specially prepared for when a victim visits certain banking websites. The most commonly seen banking Trojan was Banload, but Ursnif was second place and also saw a large campaign. Banload is typically used to target Brazilian users, whereas Ursnif was used to target Italian users, making it rather interesting that both of the major bankers were targeting places not in the United States. The other category typically refers to malware that is utility and is used by multiple malware families rather than being a distinct family that connects to a C2 or acts as ransomware. Surprisingly, these rankings have changed significantly from Q2, with information stealers surpassing keyloggers, the other category becoming more common than loaders, and the top family and the type changing for rats, bankers, and other. Here we have a breakdown of the top 10 malware families seen each month of Q3 by volume. You will notice the first place, Agent Tesla Keylogger, consistently maintains its lead throughout the quarter and in fact grows every month. Another malware family that you may notice growing is Vidar Stealer, highlighted in light blue. This malware family is typically seen in campaigns targeting the hospitality sector, which we continue to see increase in volume, and we wrote a strategic analysis about. You may also notice that Banload, in green, which was listed as the most commonly seen banker on the last slide, only appears in August. In fact, other than the one large-scale campaign in August, we did not see Banload in Q3. Here we have the top 5 delivery mechanisms by volume. The top 5 delivery mechanisms in Q3 saw some changes from those seen in Q2. JS droppers and malicious PowerShell scripts both disappeared to be replaced by Microsoft HTML applications, or HTA files, and CVE 2017-0199. The reason for the resurgence of both of these is likely the fact that many CVE 2017-0199 chains incorporate HTA files. The volume of campaigns delivering CVE 2017-11882 remain the same, and PDF droppers only increase slightly. However, .NET loaders, which were most often used to deliver Agent Tesla Keylogger, almost doubled in volume. CVE 2017-11882 is often used to deliver Agent Tesla Keylogger and Formbook, but has also been seen as part of delivery chains involving CVE 2017-0199. As has been the case for some time, CVE 2017-11882 remains a major component of the threat landscape, despite a patch existing to mitigate the vulnerability. Here we have a breakdown of the top 5 malware families delivered by CVE 2017-11882. As I mentioned previously, Agent Tesla Keylogger and Formbook are in the top 2 positions. It is important to note that this also includes delivery chains, such as when CVE 2017-11882 delivers a VBS downloader, which then delivers Formbook. The delivery chains involving Remcos Rat, LokiBot, and Ave Maria Stealer also often had additional components, such as CVE 2017-0199 or DBAT Loader. While this graphic helps make it easier to understand how popular CVE 2017-11882 is as a delivery mechanism, it is also important to note that it delivers other things that simply weren't in the top 5. Some of these other things include Nanocore Rat, Expert Rat, and StormKitty. Although these families don't make up a significant portion of malware delivered by CVE 2017-11882, they're still worth noting because it really demonstrates exactly how widely used CVE 2017-11882 is. Here we have the top file extensions seen on attachments found in SEG-protected environments. As you can see, PDFs by far make up the most common malicious attachment file extension appearing in SEG-protected environments. This confirms our Q2 prediction that PDFs would continue to grow. We are now seeing them carrying embedded QR codes in addition to their previous uses. They can be used to deliver everything from Banduke Rat to Credential Phishing. HTML and HTML files in second and third place totaled 36% of all file extensions, and can also be used to deliver a large range of payloads like Credential Phishing or malware like Async Rat. SHTML and XHTML, coming in 7th and 8th place respectively, essentially operate as HTML files, but appear in such low volume that the percentage of files acting as HTML remains around 36%. The Office file extensions of XLSX and DOCX are often seen containing links to Credential Phishing pages or as part of chains with CVE 2017-11882. Here we have a bit of information about the geolocations of the command and control, or C2, servers that we have seen in Q3. Tracking C2 servers provides insight into a range of malicious cyber activities across the globe. These C2 nodes can deliver phishing campaigns or command malware, often receiving information and exfiltrated data from infected hosts. The major changes between Q2 and Q3 were that C2 nodes decreased significantly in the second place source, and Germany and France were replaced by Denmark and Japan. This is actually unusual, as the second place source usually takes up a much larger share, meaning that there was likely some change in the hosting providers in Canada in Q3. The United States continues to be the top C2 source by IP address geolocation, as has been the case since it was first tracked. This is likely to continue, as many cloud hosting services abused by threat actors are hosted in the United States. Next up, we're going to cover our strategic reporting, including a flash alert that we released. As a whole, our strategic analyses in Q3 were focused on advanced campaigns and TTPs, while our flash alert covered the return of an advanced campaign from 2019 and 2022. This strategic analysis covered a sustained campaign targeting luxury hotels and delivering malware through embedded URLs, and I've referenced this a few times earlier. The campaign most commonly starts with a reconnaissance email that you can see here, also known as a bait email. This is the process of a threat actor sending a non-malicious email used as a way of checking to see if the address is live and responsive. Once the threat actor receives a response to the reconnaissance email, they will then follow up with a phishing email that actually has an embedded link to download malware, like the one seen here. As of now, the campaign only targets the hospitality sector, primarily targeting luxury hotel chains and resorts, and it uses lures relative to the sector, such as booking requests, reservation changes, and special requests for rooms. The lures for both the reconnaissance and phishing emails match accordingly and are well thought out. We have seen lures ranging from social media influencer requests to gender reveal parties to allergy notifications, and even one claiming to have recorded the hotel staff threatening them. Phishing emails are successfully reaching intended targets due to several methods known to disrupt email security analysis and SEGs. These tactics include the use of trusted domains with the malicious URLs in the email, password-protected archive, and executable files that are so large they can disrupt analysis and automated scanning. The overall goal of the campaign is to infect employees and systems of hospitality organizations with advanced information stealer malware. This malware varies, but the most commonly used in the campaign are Radar Stealer, Redline Stealer, and StealC. The LokiBot malware baseline is a part of our ongoing series of malware baselines for popular malware families. These baselines should be valuable to analysts, but can also provide some insights if you find yourself wondering what's so special about a certain malware that keeps topping the charts. LokiBot is an information stealer with expanding capabilities depending on the threat actor. It is simple and easy to use, so it's led to frequent usage by script kiddies or threat actors with little experience. At the same time, advanced threat actors may also use it in an attempt to disguise their skill level, or when they simply don't want to put in the work to use a more complicated malware, even if it's better. As a result, LokiBot sees widespread usage by threat actors of varying skill levels. This malware family was originally written in C++ and targets Windows devices. LokiBot was first advertised in 2015 on an underground market in Eastern Europe, as you can see here. However, it was not common to see in the wild until 2018. Since then, LokiBot has remained in the top 10 malware families delivered through phishing emails and usually resides within the top 5. LokiBot is one of the longest lasting high volume malware families. The use of misleading dates in subject lines has long been a preferred tactic of threat actors for influencing emotions of recipients and creating a false sense of urgency. We have a couple of examples of these here. In this strategic analysis, we uncovered some interesting trends in subject lines with dates in them and targeted subsectors. Here we have some examples of the sort of subjects that we talk about. The subject lines seen were intentionally deceptive, and the dates used in the subjects covered a range from a few days before the email was seen to several days afterward. Here we have a graph showing the percentage of subjects with dates in them to those without based on the sector. we found that in over 2/3 of the emails with dates in their subject line, the listed date was before the email accessed. This proves our assumptions about creating a false sense of urgency, but also allows us to treat instances where the date in the subject is before the email was sent as being suspicious and potentially worth alerting on. To get more information on this, please check out our strategic analyses. This is a rather technical one. And here's the one that I'm sure some of you were looking forward to in particular. Beginning in May 2023, Cofense has observed a large phishing campaign utilizing QR codes, targeting the Microsoft credentials of users from a wide variety of industries, as you can see on the right. You can see a sample email on the left with the QR code redacted. Although not all emails with QR codes use multi-factor authentication as a theme, it is by far the most popular. The most notable target, a major energy company based in the US, saw about 29% of the over 1,000 emails containing malicious QR codes. As you can see, other top 4 targeted industries include manufacturing, insurance, technology, and financial services, seeing 15%, 9%, 7%, and 6% of the campaign traffic respectively. Most of the phishing links were comprised of Bing redirect URLs, but other platforms that are notable include krxd.com, associated with Salesforce application, and cf-ipfs.com, which is Cloudflare's Web3 service. Historically, QR codes are not a popular choice due to the limiting nature of how QR codes are interacted with. However, recently, there have been a lot more advantages to a phishing link embedded directly in an email. QR code delivery mechanisms have a much higher chance of reaching inboxes, as the phishing link is hiding inside the QR image, while the QR image is embedded inside a PNG image or PDF attachment. We've also been seeing an increasing number of HTML attachment used for this purpose as well. Once the email has reached the inbox, victims have a higher chance of actually visiting the Credential Phishing webpage, as they must use their phone, which typically have less protections than enterprise computers. Around the time that this campaign kicked off, we started to see more QR codes in other campaigns, a trend which has continued and which we expect will continue for some time, given how effective it seems to be. We uncovered a new tactic employed by threat actors that utilized Google AMP URLs as links embedded within phishing emails, which has proven to be very successful at reaching intended targets. Google AMP is an open source HTML framework used to build websites that are optimized for both browser and mobile use. Simply by appending a portion of a URL to a Google AMP URL, threat actors are able to create redirects, such as using Google as a legitimate step, as you can see here. The websites that we observed in these campaigns are hosted on google.com or google.co.uk, both of which are considered trusted domains to most users. The campaigns using the tactic have proven to be very evasive and are employing other TTPs known to bypass segs. The following tactics have been observed by Cofense to be incorporated into the campaigns using trusted Google AMP URLs. As I said, trusted domains are often used as part of the phishing campaign, but it's not just Google. They also use other trusted domains. URL redirection as part of the Google AMP URL, as well as additional stages of redirection, has been seen throughout several campaigns using the Google AMP tactic. This adds an extra layer to disrupt analysis. Image-based phishing emails have also been used. This allows the threat actor to disrupt analysis by replacing normal email text body with an encoded HTML image that contains the malicious embedded link, which is clickable by the recipient. Cloudflare CAPTCHA has also been a commonly abused tactic in phishing campaigns. Therefore, it is no surprise that they have appeared here. CAPTCHA services disrupt automated analysis and require each phishing campaign to be manually analyzed. Luckily, that's not as much of a problem for us because we work very hard on having actual people having eyes on things. And here's our flash alert. A campaign that we warned about with the flash alert in July of 2019 and published a more in-depth strategic analysis of in September 2022 has returned in Q3. This campaign is sophisticated, using advanced techniques from start to finish, and is currently impersonating the US Department of Agriculture. The campaign appears to be a continuation of the previous campaign, this time spoofing the US Department of Agriculture to target companies that would be interested in placing bids on government contracts. These threat actors deliver an attached PDF document, which invites recipients to submit a bid via an embedded URL. These embedded URLs lead to a phishing website, which impersonates the USDA. Previously, the campaign has spoofed the U.S. Department of Labor, Transportation, and Commerce. The sender address and message body both also spoof the USDA. The attached PDF contains a convincing invitation to bid, as well as a link and a QR code that leads to the same page, which is an advancement from the 2019 and 2022 campaigns. The usage of a QR code is something that we didn't expect to see and definitely indicates that the threat actors are continually improving on the campaign. The credential phishing page seen here continues the trend of previous campaigns, using a legitimate-looking domain name and being almost indistinguishable from a legitimate website. The only real difference between this campaign and the older 2019 and 2022 campaigns is the spoofing of USDA instead of the Department of Labor, Transportation, or Commerce. Now we're going to talk about some of the overall trends in credential phishing that we observed in Q3. As I mentioned earlier, credential phishing IOCs have increased across the board, with July having the highest amount this year. However, as the quarter continued, the volume mellowed down to an average, with August and September having a similar volume to other months this year. This year, however, held an 85% higher average than the previous year. This quarter saw an approximate 45% increase in overall credential phishing emails compared to Q2 of 2023. As I mentioned earlier, this is likely due to the rise of Google AMP campaigns and QR campaigns, which lead to a lot more URLs for the exact same chain that you would see with a normal embedded URL. Here we have the top 10 TLDs, or top-level domains, for both Stage 1 and Stage 2 URLs. Stage 1 URLs are embedded in the phishing email itself, while Stage 2 URLs are used as redirects or embedded in credential phishing websites. Between Q2 and Q3 of 2023, the majority of TLDs remained primarily the same, despite having a higher volume of phish in Q3. The only noticeable difference between the quarters would be the increased amount of .ru TLDs being used. This could be due to the fact that Caffeine, a phishing as a service tool that we talked about in our previous reports, has continued to grow in popularity. During Q3 2023, the same could be said about the Stage 1 TLDs regarding the overall TLD usage of this quarter. The .com TLD did have an increase in Stage 1, which could likely be due to the increase in overall phishing volume during this quarter. The other noticeable difference is that .ru TLDs did rise a significant amount from 0.65 in Q2 to nearly 3% in Q3. The reasoning could be due to the same regarding overall TLD shares, where Caffeine has increased in popularity. TLDs used in Stage 2 remain mostly consistent to the last quarter, except for the .ru TLD. Although in Q2 there was a numerous amount of .ru TLDs found in the second stage, most were in Q3. This could be due to the same domain being used throughout a campaign. Each quarter, Cofins Intelligence has analyzed credential phishing emails that reach users in environments protected by SEGs. We identify the individual domain names and TLDs that were most prominent. Stage 1 URLs are embedded in phishing emails itself, as I said, while Stage 2 URLs are used in redirects or embedded in credential phishing websites. The 10 most common .com domains used in both stages are combined here. Of the domains, as you notice probably, several trusted cloud platforms can be identified, showing continued abuse by credential phishing threat actors. The majority of credential phishing threat actors use .com domains in their campaigns due to their relatively trusted nature. During Q3, threat actors changed much of the order regarding the most common .com domains. Most sites on the list during Q3 2023, including Bing, Google, Baidu, and Linode Objects, contain an open redirect, which has been heavily abused by threat actors during this quarter. LinkedIn was also abused during this quarter due to their smart links, which redirect users to a malicious location. Although these are not new tactics, the volume at which they were abused did increase this quarter. And I'm going to pass this off to Jared.
All right. Thanks, Max. A lot of really good content in there. And I think that that one of the biggest things that we've seen just across the board and globally has been the reemergence or the repopularizing of QR codes. Now, that in and of itself is just a notable attack vector. It's really the stage twos and beyond. How the C2 callouts are happening, what the payloads are that are being deployed after that stage one has been implemented. And so in talking about, and working with our team here and some of our partner entities, we've come up with some projections, as we always do during these quarterlies here, for just kind of what we believe we're going to be seeing in quarter four, and then really into 2024 and beyond as well. Some of the really notable activity that we saw in this past quarter here has led us to make the predictions. We've got three major ones here, and as Max was covering, the Google AMP or AMP, pick your flavor. We believe that we're going to see a continue rise in popularity. Now, this isn't just for Google AMP. We believe that the ability and simplicity of use of attackers being able to use legitimate services or legitimate domains and hosting services to hide behind in order to get an air of legitimacy. I believe that's going to just continue to increase in popularity among threat actors. I think that all of us in every sector are going to be seeing an increase, a continued increase in the volume of these type of attacks. So again, not just Google AMP. This is also related to like the LinkedIn smart links. So obviously we know LinkedIn is a legitimate service, but with their smart links causing redirects to potentially compromised C2 and other infrastructure, that is kind of all in the same box of hiding behind legitimate TLDs in order to conduct their malicious activities. So at the beginning of Q3, we specifically saw and published a report on the activity that we saw of threat actors using Google AMP to their advantage to bypass secure email gateways. So again, that would be like the domain would start with google.com/AMP/S, and then the compromised domain or malhosting domain after that would be where the actual user would be directed to. So due to the trusting nature of how most segs operate, that being block list, allow list rules at their simplest form, that's why we are predicting that we're going to see an increase in popularity by use for these trusted domain as a attack vector. So if you want more information on that, as I did reference earlier, we wrote a strategic analysis on that a couple months ago, early in the quarter here, that gives you a little bit more in detail on that. So I do encourage you to log in and access that report, take a look, and please let us know if you have any more questions on that, or you'd like us to expand on any of our findings. But as I said, moving into quarter four and beyond, we will obviously be continuing to keep all of our eyes on this and publishing any updates and evolutions as they come out. So for our second prediction, it's due to the fact that we saw some major successes by law enforcement entities in taking down infrastructure. We believe that this will continue. First off, will continue to happen as law enforcement continues their tireless efforts to mitigate these threats. I think that a lot of us were rather surprised at just how effective it was. Kind of a traditional mindset has always been, well, you can take the infrastructure offline. That they're just going to migrate to other infrastructures and other hosting providers. And while that is true, and we do predict that we will continue to see those tactics being employed as threat actors adapt, we do think that the efforts in taking infrastructure offline, infrastructure that's being used as malicious C2 and hosting, we believe that the effectiveness that we saw specifically with the CACBot takedown will continue. And we welcome that change. But again, it is a metered celebration because there will always be adaptive techniques while other infrastructure is stood up or compromised in order to be leveraged for these botnets and other payloads. I think that that it is again that it is likely it will continue to be used to deliver ransomware. The infrastructure that has been taken down as it pops back up, because it is still part of the initial attack vectors that have been established. But I think it's also likely that the next big botnet will also segregate its infrastructure now that it has been proven to be effective. So both segregate and distribute their infrastructure. So as we know in traditional IT terms, the single points of failure are very bad on networks, and that holds true for any type of network. So relying on just one hosting provider or just one consolidated geographically located hosting provider, I think that we're going to start seeing that distributed infrastructure is going to be leveraged more and more by these malicious threat actors. And for our last prediction here, probably not a surprise to anyone who's been through the beginning half of this this presentation here, is that QR codes will continue to grow in popularity with new techniques, though. So we've seen an explosion this quarter in the popularity and implementation as an attack vector. And part of what makes QR codes so successful is the unknown nature of it. It is technically a simple implementation. Literally, you get a code and then you have to scan it on your phone, right? But there's also some intrigue buried in there. So while it is simple, it is still intriguing to the end user. So in that regard, it does play off of a human's innate curiosity of, hey, I need to scan this and it's going to take me somewhere I don't know. They don't really think about that last part there, because if the QR code is being delivered as part of a compromised email chain or part of a business email compromise campaign, there is already an air of legitimacy within the environment that you are receiving this code. So the threat of maliciousness is kind of subconsciously mitigated at that point. So we've also seen, so speaking to the new techniques portion of this, we've started to see QR codes recently generating we've seen them generated using trusted domains. So this kind of ties into the Google AMP and the LinkedIn Smart Links and that attack vector as well. So now we have multi-stage, or at least multi-level of the process here in the attack vector, the initial attack vector, stage one, if you will, where the QR codes are now leveraging trusted domains. So it becomes increasingly difficult to actually flag those or alert off of those, because these trusted domains are obviously, you can't just blanket block list the entire top level domain. If you blocked SharePoint.com or Google.com, obviously you're going to have some issues with connectivity on your network and your ability to do your daily operations. So I think we're going to continue to see them leveraging multiple different ways of deploying their payloads, or at least their communications to C2s, using trusted domains, but also business email compromise, as I mentioned, is always going to be present. We didn't see any unique developments this past quarter in BEC, but what we are seeing here is a combination, a confluence of these different techniques that are making it essentially more and more effective as an attack vector, or just allowing threat actors to actually have successful contact with employees. Would like to point to the report that we published on the campaign targeting specifically the hospitality industry. Now that one was specifically targeting human emotions through legitimate business communications. So with the example that Max posted for you there, they had a potential quote unquote customer who is the threat actor, who is soliciting information about potentially staying at a hotel. Now that is legitimate communication, but what they do is they try to entice the hospitality or reception or whoever's answering that email to click on a link or download a document. And obviously, as I'm sure all of you attending this here know, that opens the door for as an attack vector. So then, they download a compromised file or something that'll lead to a stage 2 to then, deploy the payload from a C2 location. So I think we're going to continue to see new techniques that are leveraging a multitude of the successful ones that we've already highlighted here. Okay, and with that, that rounds out our predictions here. Now, obviously, those were just the top 3 big ones that we are suspecting that we're going to see, or at least see increasing activity of in Q4 and into the next year here. But at this time, I think we will move on to the Q&A session. So right now, I think we've already got the Q&A open, but joining us is Dawn Creeder, who is our Director of Product Management. So with her expertise here, we are, definitely looking to answer any questions that you may have about what has been presented here today. Generally what we're seeing within the threat data and our intelligence reporting, but also we can answer some more specific questions about Cofense itself, some of our product offering, or any of those questions that you may have. So again, I would encourage you to please enter your questions into the Q&A section, and we can answer them as they come in. So I'll take a quick second here to see what we have. Okay, we do have a couple in here, so I'll just go ahead and start with the shortest one that I can see. And Max, I think I'll probably leverage your expertise on this since you have had your sleeves rolled up and dealing with this specifically. Why is Crackbot gone this quarter? I think that's a great question. I suspect I know the answer, but you can probably give a little bit better insight to our customers here.
Right. So as you may recall, there was a law enforcement takedown of some of Quackbot's infrastructure. In the past, infrastructure takedowns have been kind of looked down upon because they often really just delay the threat actor by a few months and then they're back in business. So they're not really effective. But in this case, law enforcement actually really got it together and went big enough that Quackbot hasn't come back. The takedown was very effective, and we just haven't seen any activity. There are signs that the threat actors behind Quackbot may be diversifying into new malware, but there's nothing definitive yet. And their main Quackbot moneymaker is definitely down for the count. So law enforcement really hit them hard this time. They did a good job.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think, and I was kind of, alluding to that, but I definitely can't speak to it as well as you can with the effectiveness of that law enforcement takedown of the infrastructure. I think it is interesting that you mentioned, possibly shifting to other types of malware. I know it's probably too early, or if ever possible, to actually like put our thumb down and say, yes, the Crackbot operators or affiliates, migrated over to whatever other malware family. But I guess my question would be, just literally out of my own curiosity, is do you think that we're going to see Crackbot turn up, if not this next quarter here, but in 2024? Do you think it's going to resurge, or are they just going for something that hasn't been fully neutered yet?
I'm going to be honest. I think law enforcement hit him hard enough. I don't think Quackbot is going to be coming back in any form like it was. The fact that there has been rumors, I guess, that Quackbot is experimenting with different kinds of malware, or they're trying new things, the fact that they're having to try these new things, and the fact that they're not focusing on rebuilding the infrastructure, which would be relatively obvious if they were really trying to rebuild the infrastructure. The fact that they're not doing that is a good indicator that they're probably not going to come back the way they did. And if they do come back, I don't expect them to be the same group. I fully expect them to probably jump ship to somebody who's a little bit more successful and use their experience to get well-paid positions working with whatever other malware it is.
Yeah, I mean, I love that answer. Yeah, I think it was definitely very unique to see the effectiveness here. So, yeah. But, you know, we always have to worry about there's the enemy you know versus the enemy you don't know, right? So we know CACBot because it's been around for a long time, well, long enough for us to, you know, wrap our heads around how it's implemented and what it looks like, what it smells like, right? So yeah, it is going to be very interesting to see as we transition into next year what happens here. But yeah, well done to all of our law enforcement friends. All right, so I do see we have another question here from Andre Shabilsky. I hope I pronounced that correct. I've known some people with similar last names, so I do apologize if I butchered that. But the question is Cofense capable analyzing QR codes links automatically? Yes. So that's a multifaceted answer, but yes, we do have. Let's see. So as I was talking about earlier with some of our infrastructure that we use to enable our analysts to actually put eyes on, hands on all of our data, we have quite a robust automation pipeline that serves kind of as a triage service for processing all of the data. But again, ultimately, at the end of that pipeline are humans sitting behind keyboards that are reviewing all of it, processing it for contextual information that we publish within our intelligence products. Specifically for QR codes, it's kind of difficult, right? Because QR codes are legitimate. You see them not just within emails or on websites, but you also see them on flyers for your local restaurant. They may have a QR code there. I know specifically during the pandemic when nobody wanted to touch anything in public, but we still wanted to go out and eat. A lot of the restaurants around me had QR codes on the table, so you could scan it and be directed to the menu. So that way they wouldn't have to, the service people wouldn't have to clean their menus each time. So not a bad idea, but also where does that QR code lead? Somebody could have put a sticker with a Google AMP hosted URL behind or a malicious URL behind a Google AMP hosted location, which could have deployed malware to your phone or something like that. So yes, as part of that, we do have the processes in place and within our production environment to actually identify QR codes, but it's not as simple as just saying we can now block all of them, right? Because you're actually stopping some legitimate services if you do that. So currently within the intelligence department here and within our intelligence product, yes, we do identify them, and then our analysts actually do their analysis. I won't dive too deep into what exactly that toolbox looks like, but we will then tag any indicators of compromise with a QR code tag as well, so they're easy to find within our reporting. And then Cofense on the larger scale has a new product really a new feature and capability augmenting some of our existing products that we'll be releasing at towards the end of this month, but definitely by the end of the year for our Vision product in particular. So Vision will be by the end of the year, and then our other product Triage that works in tandem with Vision will be in Q1 of 2024. So essentially what this is going to do is allow proactive and automated scanning within your end users' inboxes if you have the Triage and Vision with auto quarantine appliances deployed there. All right, so Andre, I hope that answered your question. So feel free to type in the Q&A if you need more details, or we can follow up later on if you want to go further in depth on that. Excellent, and I got your name correct. That's a relief. Great to hear, and then thanks for asking. So I also see Sarah Ivani has a question here of, do you have any suggestions on QR code security app? I don't believe that Cofense has any partner or affiliations with any of that. I don't know of any personally. I do believe, though, that iOS by nature, with it being more security focused than most other mobile operating systems, allows for link previewing. And I personally am an Android user in my daily driver, and I know that when you scan a QR code, it does pop up with a preview link. Now, obviously, I think that you can see that there is a bit of a logic gap there where a URL that's being directed to from a QR code is not always legible. So it's difficult to tell if it is legitimate or not. But I think that part of it is training, right? So here at Cofense, we always advocate for training as a very necessary step in your defense. First line of defense, well, maybe not first line, it depends upon the scenario, but one of the very crucial steps in your defense is having your end users trained. So that includes use of their personal cell phones for QR codes as well. When you are at a restaurant and you are expecting to see a link that says something about like the menu, so maybe it's restaurant.com/menu, obviously generalized there. That if that's what you're expecting to see, there's a reasonable implication that it is safe. But no, I do not know of any good QR code security applications. Max, did you have any thoughts on that?
Not really. I was just going to reinforce what you said about training, because it's the same deal as if you've got an email open on your phone and you're trying to see where the link in the email leads and it gets cut off because you've got a small screen because it's your phone. Really, the only thing that's going to help you is just making sure your employees are suspicious, because if they're suspicious of links in one platform, they'll be suspicious of links in another platform.
Yeah, that's a great point. And then in this case, I think the word suspicious is a good thing, right? Be paranoid, I guess would be another way of saying that. Okay, good deal. Yeah, some real solid questions. I appreciate those of you who have written in here. We still do have a couple minutes left, so probably at least one more question. Let me see one that we can answer in that time. We were talking about QR codes, Crackbot. Here's a brief mention, Max, that maybe you'd probably be best equipped to answer, though. There was, in talking about stage 1 versus stage 2 top-level domains, why differentiate between those two?
Right, that's a good question. So the difference really matters, because stage 1 TLDs are those that are typically scanned by a SEG. So they have stricter requirements on what threat actors can use, because they want stage 1 TLDs to appear as legitimate as possible. So they're not going to put badplace.com in an email, or .tech really as a stage 1 thing, because SEGs are, if they're any good, going to catch that. Stage 2 TLDs are those that are more likely to be used to host phish or credential phishing infrastructure in some way. And they're likely to be determined by concerns like hosting costs and ease of use for the threat actor, rather than whether or not it appears legitimate. So stage 2 is really, they just don't care anymore. Stage 1, if they're any good, they put effort into it to make it harder for SEGs to detect it. So it's important to track them separately, because they have very different purposes.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes great sense. Yeah, and I think specifically within intelligence and having the intelligence product, where the contextual information is so crucial to everything that we publish. Knowing and clearly defining the differentiator between those two can ultimately lead to better understanding of an event, right? Or just what the criticality of indicators of compromise are, and things like that, other characteristics of the data itself. So I think I got my head wrapped around that one. That's, yeah, makes sense. Okay, well, we still have about 5 minutes left, but nothing saying that we have to keep everyone on here to the top of the hour. I don't see any other questions, but if anybody has any last minute questions or alibis or anything that they would like us to discuss here, please do take this opportunity to put those in the Q&A section. All right, well, I think we've exhausted it then. Okay, well then I would like to close out this webinar here by thanking all of our attendees, specifically the Cofense Intelligence customers that we have on. We do, as a reminder, do these webinars when we publish our quarterly reports, so at quarterly intervals every 3 months. With the exception of early next year, in Q1, we will actually be presenting the annual report. So you won't want to miss that because we'll be taking a retrospective look at all of 2023. And then, as we like to do, further predictions into 2024, which gets really interesting after we come out of the holiday season, especially. Sometimes some odd themes pop up and some things that we weren't expecting to see. So it's a really great opportunity to discuss those with the larger community here. So again, thank you everyone for attending. Max, thank you for joining me again today. I know we were on the last one together as well, and I think we talked about some really good topics here that you were able to put your expertise against and give some real good context for the audience here. So anything that you'd like to say in closing, Max?
Not really. Just if you have any more interest in any of the strategic analyses that we put out, they're pretty easy to get to on ThreatHQ. And another key thing, because I'm sure y'all are all interested in QR codes, in ThreatHQ, you just go to the tag section and search QR_code, and it'll pull up all of the QR code campaigns that we've done.
Yes, excellent. Yes, I do encourage everyone to log in ThreatHQ if you have access. If not, please do reach out to us. We can set you up with some access. As with that and any other questions that you may have, feel free to reach out to us at the point of contacts attached here. As a reminder, we will be sending out a link to the recording of this so you can reference it later. And then again, if you have any follow-up questions, please do let us know and we will get back to you as soon as possible. So thanks again, everyone, for attending. The webinar will now close.